This week, from spikes to shields, the new way the MTA is fighting fare evasion. Plus, an 11-year-old girl is the victim of an apparent hate crime. And
I get scams like this all the time.
The latest phishing scam targeting drivers. Right now, Fox 5's Crime in the City. For our first story this week, we begin with a warning about a new text message phishing scam. It is targeting drivers with claims they have unpaid tolls that they need to pay soon, or they'll be fined.
The next time you hear that familiar text notification ding instead of a real message, your bank account could get dinged if you fall for the latest scam that's targeting Easy Pass customers. It's going around, and now officials are warning people not to fall for it.
I've received it a bunch of times since the scammers seem to be preying on confusion in the wake of congestion pricing going into effect. Fox 5's Kendall Green has the details.
We've seen exactly what happens when drivers get caught scamming their way out of tolls. Regardless of how they do it, they could have their vehicles seized, or in some cases, they could even get arrested. But what happens when drivers become the victims? Well, that's the case in a new scam you should know about, targeting drivers, and, well, non-drivers too.
I get scams like this all the time. In fact, they actually sent me one last week.
He's talking about this message where scammers send a text saying your vehicle has an unpaid toll invoice, urging the recipient to pay their fee to avoid excessive late fees by clicking on the link. Except the messages are fake.
People click on the link, they get drawn further into the scam, and then sometimes they're asked to pay by credit card.
Would you fall for it?
I wouldn't, because of how many text messages like that I get. Either, not even just Easy Pass itself, there's a lot of stuff like, I get a bunch of like fake loan ones, or say like IRS or stuff like that. So naturally over time I've realized like that's just like a new scam style, you know?
The NY Customer Service Center, who manages toll collections, have been making an effort to raise awareness about the scam on social media through emailing customers and issuing warnings like this. They share while the agency does send text messages to their customers who sign up for alerts, the agency will never send a text message asking for money.
If you think about all of the companies that have had data breaches over the past few years, your information is in that.
So your phone numbers end up in the hands of hackers. But you can tell whether texts are fake because they are sent from an international number, requests a reply with Y to receive the link, and contains an unofficial website. Now, one believes ultimately it's up to cell phone carriers to intercept those false messages like the ones we've shown in this report. But until that happens, he's urging consumers not to click on those links at all costs.
We now head to Brooklyn Heights, where police say a man impersonating an ICE officer robbed and attempted to rape a woman.
Police want to find and question this man about an attempted rape in Brooklyn Heights. It happened yesterday morning near Henry and Montague Streets. Police say a 51-year-old woman says a man claiming to be an immigration agent approached her in a building lobby, then forced her into a basement stairwell. That's where investigators say he tried to sexually assault her before stealing her phone and purse and running off. Anyone with any info is being asked to call Crime Stoppers.
Nearby, in South Williamsburg, police are searching for the person who assaulted a young girl in an apparent hate crime attack.
The NYPD needs your help identifying this suspect in a possible hate crime in Brooklyn. Police say it happened Saturday in South Williamsburg. The victim, just an 11-year-old girl, was wearing traditional Jewish attire when the suspect grabbed her hair and dragged her to the ground. The girl suffered minor injuries in the attack. If you have any information about who this suspect is, you're being asked to call Crime Stoppers.
Down in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, the West Indian Day Parade was marred by violence and a fatal shooting last September. New York City police are now apologizing for a mistaken accusation in that case.
The NYPD is apologizing for mistakenly accusing a teenager of a deadly shooting at a Brooklyn parade and then taking nearly 5 months to retract those false allegations. The NYPD releasing a statement saying the department mistakenly accused 15-year-old Camden Lee for a deadly shooting at the West Indian American Day Parade in September last year. Lee's attorneys say that the 15-year-old has received numerous death threats that have pushed his family into hiding, forcing him to leave the city and miss school for weeks at a time.
And finally, we end at the Brooklyn Bridge City Hall subway station. That's where the MTA is trying another new feature in an attempt to deter fare beaters. This just weeks after installing so-called subway spikes on certain turnstiles on the Lexington Avenue line.
Our very own Good Day's Briella Tomasetti. She's live in Lower Manhattan to check things out. What's the review, Briella? What are you hearing?
What is the review, Dan? I'll get to it in just a moment, but it's all happening here at the Brooklyn Bridge City Hall subway station. As you mentioned, the MTA trying a new and creative approach to crack down on fare beaters. A lot of people wondering, hey, is this thing going to work out this time, or is it going to be another waste of time and money? Because riders always find a way to beat the system. And without further ado, take a look at your screens. This is what we're talking about. The MTA installing crescent-shaped metal shields to subway turnstiles. Basically what this does is it adds a few inches of height to the fare gate to try and stop people from jumping over it. But New Yorkers are clever. We haven't seen it really take effect yet, but if you know what they say, there's a will, there's a way, and people will find a way to get over this thing or under this thing. Fare evasion costs the MTA more than $500 million a year, and according to the independent news website The City, it cost the agency more than $360 million last year on subways alone. Many of the MTA's methods have been unsuccessful in the past. In January, workers installed spikes along turnstile handrails at the Lexington Avenue 59th Street station with efforts to deter people from using the handrails to lift themselves over the turnstiles. And back in 2023, the transit agency installed new gates designed to stop fare beaters. But yes, a TikTok hack actually showed people how to activate the electric doors by swiping their hands over the exit sensor. The MTA even started a pilot program at several stations, which put a timer on emergency exit doors. Once a rider pushed the handle, there would be a 15-second delay before the door opened. And in her State of the State address last month, Governor Hochul announced a plan to prioritize subway safety and fare beating.
The MTA will be installing even more barriers in 100 additional stations. Also, bright LED lighting in every station by the end of the year. And the shameless toll evaders, fare evaders, will finally be stopped with modernized gates.
That plan includes more NYPD officers on trains and platforms, new barriers, LED lighting, and modernized fare gates at 20 stations this year, plus 20 more in 2026. And just last week, MTA Chair and CEO Janno Lieber asked lawmakers in Albany to fund the agency's new $68.4 billion five-year capital plan.
Obviously, we have a long way to go on key issues like public safety and fare evasion. We are making real progress.
MTA officials say their efforts resulted in a 26% drop in fare evasion in the last 6 months of 2024. And according to police statistics given to the MTA board, the NYPD issued more than 143,000 theft of service summonses, and that all happened last year. So pretty impressive statistics there. We'll see if this new method has any effect. Dan, back to you.
We'll see, Brielle. I'm sure somebody will be posting some videos of doing something, trying to hop those turnstiles down there. We'll see. Thank you very much.
That's this week's Crime in the City. Subscribe for more at youtube.com/Fox5NY.